Hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. So nice to see all of you. So my name is Yurim, and I'm with the Plant-Based Treaty, and I'm also president of the Plant-Based Treaty Student Club at the University of Toronto.
Hi, my name is Uday. This summer, I recently graduated from the University of Waterloo, and I've been working on the Plant-Based Treaty Toronto campaign recently. I also go by the name Vifo as a musical artist, and I've released a new Plant-Based Treaty 1.5 song, so I've been promoting and performing that.
Hi, my name is Anita Kreins. I'm based in Toronto, and I'm the Plant-Based Treaty Global Campaign Coordinator.
Hi everyone, I'm James. I'm on the communications team for Plant-Based Treaty.
So, the title of this webinar is Try Veganuary University Pledge Campaign.
Yep.
Yuri, I'm passing it to you for the opening slide.
Sounds good. So yes, welcome everybody. So the goal of today's webinar is for the Try Veganuary so universities pledge campaign, and we want to encourage as many universities as possible to introduce Veganuary in their cafeterias for the month of January. Even if you're not a student at a university, please don't worry, we can still reach out to our local universities, and this is the goal of today's webinar, so stay tuned. I'll pass it to Uday.
Thank you, Irene. So yeah, just getting into this presentation, what can universities do? So as we know, universities have a big influence over food emissions on our campus. And as a response to the climate and planetary crisis that we're in, universities should ideally commit to a fully plant-based menu immediately. This is a crisis that we're in, so this is very important. And in the UK itself, like 7 universities have committed to 100% vegan plant-based menus. But when universities often commit to this, they start with a 50% plant-based menu, then increase the options year by year until they reach 100%. Passing it to Anita next.
Yeah, so we're very excited about the Plant-Based Universities campaign in the UK, achieving all those successes. Another group that we're looking to is Greener by Default and Better Food Foundation, and they're vegan by default. So in this slide, you see Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, University of Toronto. They have a staff sustainability guide, and under the facilities and services, it says, make vegan, vegetarian, low waste, and fair trade meals the default option when catering meetings or events. Offer meat options on request only. Avoid using single-use plastics at events. And I just wanted to thank Valerie at OISE for sharing that with us. And in the next slide, what can universities do? Universities can change menus as well as play a role in promoting climate-friendly plant-based menus. So the very best option, as Uday said, is for universities to go completely vegan for the month of January and beyond. The next best option you could ask for Veganuary at universities is for them to increase the number of vegan dishes, especially lunch dishes, because they're the most popular, and for them to introduce new specials and run promotions. For example, in Portsmouth University in the UK, they run a loyalty scheme which rewards students with free meals for choosing plant-based options and makes plant-based options cheaper than meat dishes to encourage people to choose them. Universities could also introduce plant-based milk by default in all of their hot and cold drinks. If they agree, you can see if the kitchen is happy to do a joint press release, social media, and promotion. The university could put up information tables on campus and in cafeterias with posters, vegan guides, food samples, and recipe cards. And I'll pass it to Uday.
Thank you. Yeah, so great information. And just getting into the root of the campaign, what is Veganuary? So I'm sure many of you have heard about Veganuary, but if you haven't, Veganuary is a nonprofit which helps people worldwide to try going vegan for the month of January and beyond, because it takes 22 days to build a habit, and then for a month, that's a great amount of time for us to build this habit of eating plant-based and then eating more plant-based and fully plant-based, so they can continue through the whole year and hopefully get more people, organizations, businesses and universities now to endorse this and change their menus. Last year alone, 700,000 people took part in this Veganuary, and you can sign up anytime to get support, resources such as meal plans, recipes, and other information on the website, which I will share here. I'm passing it on to Anita.
Thanks, Ade. So we're launching this campaign now to focus on Veganuary, but we can also use this campaign for other months. So in February, there is Veganuary by the Afro Vegan Society in Baltimore, Maryland. In April, we could use Earth Month and ask universities to provide plant-based menus for Earth Month. In September, we could focus on Frosh Week, and there are other possibilities. And now I'll pass it to Yareem, who's going to talk about her experiences in organizing at the University of Toronto.
Thank you so much, Anita. So yeah, so maybe many of you might be wondering, how did it all get started? So maybe I can share some of it with you. So I had the opportunity to create the Plant-Based Student Club at the University of Toronto this year in March. And by the way, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're going to add the links in the chat. So essentially what we did was that we first began doing tabling events, and we actually did our first tabling event at the Student Union of the university during Sustainability Week. So that was really great for visibility, for making connections, for having a dialogue. It was great. And that's where other clubs also knew about our club, and we started creating relationships, and we built a lot of support. And then we reached out to other clubs such as the University of Toronto Vegan Club for a collaboration, because they were obviously naturally aligned with our vision for Veganuary and veganism and plant-based treaty. Finally, we began organizing our first movie screening with that club, the Vegan Club at University of Toronto, and we did our first screening of Eating Our Way to Extinction. So that screening was in October, so very recently. And we obviously invited the student body to the event, to the movie screening, to the film screening, including 5 very important chefs at the university. However, because they were not available to attend the event in person, we decided to follow up with them via phone call and email to be able to meet in person as well and discuss. So as you can see, this process, this whole journey is just the beginning, and we're so thankful that you're here at this webinar, because we hope that our story can inspire you to take action at your university. So yeah, so next slide. Thank you so much. So yeah, so after we asked to speak with the chef in person, you might be wondering, what's the process of reaching and meeting with the chefs? So when it comes to our story, was that both Anita and I, we reached out to Chef Tucci, who is the executive chef at the University of for Arbor Room, and to meet in person. And when we met, obviously before meeting him, we had researched his background, his inspirations, his history, and we definitely had a true interest in meeting with him as a chef. And when we met with him, we asked him for him to consider turning his menu to 100% vegan, or alternatively to try to increase vegan options and to switch to plant-based milk by default. Next slide. So we have also, yeah, I think I'll pass it on to Anita, I believe.
Thank you. Thanks, Yareem. So I just want to mention that Yareem, found out that the chef was a dishwasher, and then he became, when he was younger, and he stayed at the same institution, and then he eventually got promoted to executive chef. And so we mentioned that, Yuri mentioned that, and sort of was building a relationship with him. So that was really helpful. And we want to share with you a sample letter that you can use wherever you are. So we notice people are here on this call are from Canada, the US, Sheena's going to Australia. We got Cindy from Belgium. So we have people from all over. So we have this sample letter that you can use, which is directed to the executive chef or relevant contact at your local university, asking them to introduce Veganuary for the month of January. Uday will pop a link in the chat now to the document, so you can take a look at it and copy the text and you know, personalize it a bit. And Yureen will run through the letter now in more detail.
Thank you so much, Anita. Yes, so when it comes to the letter, the link is in the chat, but we also wanted to give you some more tips as to how you can personalize to make an even bigger impact. So for example, if you're a student, it's also very valuable to mention, you know, that you're a student at the university, or if you're part of a group or a club, you can also mention that to really bridge that connection between yourself as an individual and part of an institution. So if you have a connection with the cafeteria, with the dining hall, that's also helpful with the chef, with the staff. If you have a favorite dish, you can also mention that in your letter. So I'm just going to read a few excerpts from the letter just to help us and guide us how we can best customize it. So for example, as you can see, it says "Dear Chef" and his name. It's always very important to address the chefs as chefs. Actually, when I was making phone calls, I actually asked one of the hospitality executive chefs some advice on how because she actually was going to transfer me to speak with the executive chef, and then I told the hospitality chef, "Dear chef, how do you have any tips on how should I address, you know, the executive chef? Like, do you have any tips on, you know, how I can build a relationship?" And then she said, "Well, first of all, make sure to always call them chef." So so I just wanted to share that little tidbit of information. Yeah, so as you can see, it says please include cafeteria name. So just mention and customize it to the cafeteria or dining hall that you want to address. Please participate in Veganuary this year to help the campus meet our climate goals and to promote healthy plant-based foods. And then you can mention the stats such as that Veganuary encourages people and institutions worldwide to try vegan food. During the month of January, 700,000 people took part in 2023. Actually, this is like a really big accomplishment. It's a lot of people, so it's always good to show them and encourage them to see that it's a very successful, popular initiative. And then you can also, the letter mentions some points as to how to help the chef have some ideas on how they can participate in Veganuary in the month of January. So we have a few points. You can add your own, but these ones are very nice and relevant. So for example, they could add more plant-based dishes to the menu in January, or consider 75 or even 100% of the menu. And then we have some stats. A second point, it says try making plant-based milk the default milk for the month of January, with dairy available only on request. Also, we asked them to check out Greener by default, and we also hyperlink the guide that they have for the university. So we really try to be very helpful, be very resourceful in our email communication. Some tips for promotion, for example, distributing Veganuary literature to students, and we have some hyperlinks. And finally, sign with your name. But when you sign with your name, I would really encourage you to try to mention any connections with the university. For example, I would sign as president of the student club, or if you're part of a club, you can also mention that, or just mention anything personable, you know, in your email signature. And also another tip that I could give you is that it's always very helpful to send the email from your institution's email extension, right? So for me, would be my name at utoronto.ca, for example, for legitimacy. Yeah.
Just before we go
So
to the next slide, Yureen, I just want to mention that Kenzie Bushman is with us from the Better Food Foundation, and they've just released like a toolkit from the Better Food Foundation. So we're going to update that template letter because the second bullet says try plant-based milk. So we're just going to update that with that toolkit. So I'll pass it back to you.
wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so the next slide is actually building a relationship. So some tips on how we can build a relationship with the executive chefs, the staff. So my recommendation is that, you know, to research the chef at the dining hall in advance. Also, I would recommend for you to call and ask to meet in person. I know that perhaps chefs might be very busy, but if they're able to meet you in person, that's actually the ideal, so you can actually have like a one-on-one conversation. Yes, so obviously make the chef and the staff shine. Like in essence, what I'm trying to say here is that it's always important to make it a very collaborative effort. because we want to work with them to make them shine in sustainability, or make them shine in, being champions for the climate, for animals, and so forth, and for health. So also, just essentially seek to understand them first, and their needs and their background and their thoughts. A good example is that when Anita and I met with Chef Tucci, he gave us like a lot of insight as to, for example, he had questions about what the best frothing milk might be for cappuccino. So he let us know what his questions were. He let us know what his ideas were, and so it's always important to listen and not try to understand first. In the picture that you can see over there is a little gift that we brought to the chef, just to show him a little bit of a few samples of the potential alternatives that they could use to replace animal products. So, for example, in the basket, maybe you can see in the picture, we have barista milk, and we have Earth's own holiday nog, which is like the plant-based version of eggnog, and also fair trade chocolate, and also vegan jerky. And that actually was great for us to have a conversation. It was like a conversation piece to have with Chef Tucci about the availability of the different options, right? So he could also try them as well. But overall, my recommendation is just to be open to fostering a very collaborative approach, provide a lot of support, and if they also, if the chefs or the staff would like us to research anything for them, also to be open to that. For example, with Chef Tucci, he wanted to know what other popular lunch menus might there be that he could maybe consider for Veganuary or his dining hall. So what we did was that we took that request, and we actually called around. I called the University of Guelph, Waterloo, and I'm ongoing calling different universities and institutions, just so that we can see, we can collaborate in that way. And then I gathered that information and we sent it back to Chef Tucci. So yeah, so very collaborative, and just try your best to be helpful. But Anita, I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that, because you and I were there. So
Yeah, I just want to add that when Yureen put together that gift basket and gave it to him, it was just a nice gesture. And she was helping build a relationship by looking at his history, looking up blogs, etc. And he told us that he tries meat-free Fridays at his home. So that was nice that he shared that. And then at the meeting, he also urged us to do more. So he said he was really interested in doing this, but then he said, contact all the other executive chefs at the University of Toronto, because University of Toronto is huge with 100,000 students. So there are, a number of different colleges that have their own executive chefs. So he was actually trying to help us become more effective. And I think it was partly because, Yureen had taken certain steps to build a positive relationship. So yeah, so the next slide, which is first, so we go through these steps at the meeting. So it sort of gives you some speaking points when you go to the meeting. So the first is you try to gauge their position. So asking questions like, would you consider switching to an entirely vegan menu? And then you could mention in the UK that Plant-Based Universities group has a campaign, and 7 universities have committed to 100% vegan menus, often starting with 50% plant-based menu, and then they increase the vegan options each year until they reach 100%. Alternative, we could ask them, would you be interested in adding more vegan options? And you could say, we would like to work with you to try to boost the plant-based options. A second step is we thought that it would be very effective to try making plant-based milk the default in drinks for the month of January, with dairy available on request. So we suggest you look at the Better Food Foundation's successful oat milk by default pilots in cafes at the University of San Diego and Pomona College, and to read. They have an article, you can read more about it. So you could ask questions like, which plant-based milks do you offer? Which ones are the most popular? And on this point, again, during Q&A, I would urge you to talk for Kenzie, ask questions of Kenzie Bushman, who's with Better Food Foundation and is on this call. A third step is you could also check out the Better Food Foundation's new default veg universities campaign and their new toolkit for dining on campuses. And they suggest, sharing the toolkit with other students or faculty in your networks. And in a recent study with Sodexo, that's a food service provider that services a lot of universities. It's a global company. They show that plant-based defaults in campus dining halls resulted in an increase in the order of veg meals from less than 1/3 to over 80% of diners. So that's like 50% of the population or students were willing to switch because of, so it just shows you how powerful a tool Greener by default is without taking away anyone's choice, but at the same time being a step towards the ultimate goal of going completely plant-based. So a fourth step is one of the things you should do is look at the menu to make suggestions of some simple swaps. So for example, you could swap the mayonnaise to make sure it's vegan mayonnaise. You could look at the sauces and make sure they're vegan. It will also help lower environmental impacts without affecting quality, taste, or cost. And you could ask, do you have any data on sales of plant-based options? And say that we would like to help boost them. A fifth point is the more vegan options you have on the menu, the more likely they will be chosen by meat eaters. So there's a research study that shows there's a tipping point at around 75%. So if 75% of the menu is plant-based, then meat eaters are likely to choose a plant-based dish. In the UK, universities have committed to 100% vegan menus, but they always first work at maybe increasing it towards 50 and then going higher. So finally, the offer that the chef was very interested in is introducing Veganuary. So we said Veganuary is coming up. It's a good time to do an oat milk default menu and to increase the plant-based options or to make it completely vegan. So the chef that we met with, Chef Tucci at the University of Toronto, said, oh, he was just planning, the menu for January, February. So we talked to him at a good time. We realized that the notice is short right now. That's why we have these two webinars this week. So there's still an opportunity to ask about Veganuary. If you do it this week, next week, I think you could still try to have an impact on Veganuary in January, but there's also Veguary in February, there's Earth Month in April. We really urge you to, connect with your university, whether you're a student or whether you graduated from a university, and go back and try to influence them. And I'll pass it back to you, Irene.
Thank you, Anita. Yes, and the next slide is, I guess, going back to our conversation with Chef Tucci and how he was very excited about Veganuary, and also his questions about, he really wanted to, it felt like he really wanted to collaborate because he was asking us, so do you know what, are the most popular recipes out there? Can you give us some ideas? And then that's when we offered to do some research. So I want to share some of the research with you. So when I called the University of Guelph, for example, I spoke to Chef Vijay Nair and Chef Ashke Shetty from the University of Guelph. And as you can see, some of the favorites are vegan pasta, biryani with roasted vegetables, spices and seitan, vegan quesadillas, masala curry, and the star of the show, according to everybody that I spoke to, because I spoke to different levels within the hospitality department. So I spoke to the chefs, the sous chefs, and the hospitality management and the hospitality executive chefs. Everyone raved about the chickpea curry with seitan. They even said that even it was the most popular in some ways with the meat eaters, quote unquote, like with the non-vegans, right? Like it was often very popular. So yeah, so as you can see, it's important to have these calls, as Anita is saying, the window of this week and next week is important. Just calling them and having a conversation, starting a relationship building with the chefs. I think it's very exciting and important because many of the chefs are already excited about their own plant-based dishes and would like to actually help us in the campaign, and we definitely want to collaborate. So yeah, I think we have please refer to the follow-up letter to Chef Tucci. I know Anita posted in the chat. And we also suggested to the chefs also at Guelph and Waterloo, and also Chef Tucci when we reported back, some other popular recipes according to the Veganuary's website. So there's so many resources. So hopefully you get excited to make some calls and do some research and build those relationships. So I'll pass it on to James.
Thank you, Yureen. Yeah, so if universities are reluctant to have a full vegan or vegan menu items straight away, then there's still the opportunity to introduce plant-based milk by default. It's an alternative that can be a really easy win. 23 countries worldwide have already integrated plant-based milk into their national nutrition guidelines as an alternative to cow's milk. And around 75% of the world's population is lactose intolerant. So it's no surprise that plant-based milk is a top-selling product in the entire veggie sector. So plant-based milk by default is something that uni cafeterias can easily implement and support. And there'll be a lot of support in the university for them to do that. The first thing they can do is level the playing field by removing any fee that might be in place for plant-based milk. This follows in the footsteps of corporations like Pret a Manger in the UK, Tim Hortons in Canada. And then once that's done, swapping the dairy default for a plant-based milk it can make a powerful impact that really helps influence consumers to think plant-based. The most popular choice is oat milk, but of course there are lots of plant-based milk options. And Better Food Foundation, who I need to mention on the call, are working with universities to do just this. At the University of San Diego, the coffee house Aromas is now the first known on-campus cafe in the country to offer oat milk by default. And this came about after a 2021 Changemaker Challenge at the university, a social innovation competition focused on ways to make the campus more sustainable. And oat milk by default was the winning suggestion there. And Pomona College, also in California, is the second school in the country to feature an on-campus cafe that serves oat milk by default. So yeah, some really great alternatives. If they're a bit reluctant, you can always just focus on the milk. And I'll pass back to Yureen.
Yureen, you're muted.
Thank you so much. Thank you, James. So this next slide is about how we spoke with Chef Tucci, and he actually asked us very sincerely, what is the best frothing milk for cappuccinos? So, and we offered to help him with some research, and we did the research. We reported back to him, and we discovered that drinks like cappuccinos, lattes, and hot chocolates, they can still be obviously creamy and foamy, and could be achieved easily with plant-based barista milk. Actually, we gave Chef Tucci a sample of Earth's own barista milk for him to try. But obviously, every country will have different brands to choose from, but we encourage you to research online to find out which is the best one, and also check out your local vegan cafes. But ultimately, as you can see, research is important, having that dialogue with the chefs to help them to make plant-based milk a default, a reality. And yeah, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything to that experience with the milk when we spoke to him, to Chef Tucci.
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
Yeah, we covered it. Okay, awesome. So again, next slide, please. So essentially, it'd be great if I could share with you some tips that we have observed that maybe can help you succeed in making this a reality. So I think it's very valuable to try to create a student club at your institution. Because it could help you legitimize your requests, right? To ask for Veganuary, for plant-based milk. And also obviously connecting directly with the chefs. Even if if you're not a student, you can also be an independent non-student campaigner through Time-Based Treaty. But definitely, please just feel free and be encouraged to ask to meet with the chef in person if you can. When you do meet with the chef in person, I would suggest to be equipped with some materials, some data, some articles, vegan starter kits. The plant-based treaty vegan starter kits are really useful and helpful and exciting. Business cards, and if you like, also a gift like we did, like a little sample, a gift with different samples of products. Also, when you meet with the chef, I would encourage you to also show them a presentation. Anita actually presented on the vegan donut economics. So she was able to talk about the planetary boundaries, and that was actually very interesting to the chef, because sometimes it's about that dialogue and about presenting the data as well. So he was very excited about the presentation. Also important, after the meeting, just make sure to follow up via email, thank them, and make sure to provide a meeting summary if you can. Also, I would encourage you to offer to ask them how we can help them. So in our case, we asked Chef Tucci where he needed help, and organically he told us that he needed help with, what's the best frothed milk for cappuccinos, and he asked us, okay, what's the favorite lunch plant-based lunches out there. So we did the research. So also always try to get that information and send it back. So yes, and I think we're going to be adding the follow-up letter to which we sent to Chef Tucci in the chat. And as well, you can always check out our Instagram for the Plant-Based Treaty Student Club. Or you can connect with us at hello@plantbasedtreaty.org if you want to discuss how to create or start your own club. So I'll pass it on to Uday.
Thanks, Reem. And yeah, I just want to add, don't worry if you're not a student. Like I'm not either. Like I've graduated, so I'm taking a different route. So I was just trying to reach out to already established clubs or societies to work on this plant-based treaty campaign. And so like trying to focus on environmental, animal rights, health, philosophy-based clubs to build coalitions, and then to host film screening events that we've talked about before. And then we can garner support and help create a core plant-based treaty team at the university or college. And then you can use that to create a club because you need a core team when you're registering. And then, yeah, like it also helps if you like have any other students that you're close with that can help build this with you, as they are more impactful at the organization or university or college. And yeah, when you can finally create the PBT club, that would further your campaign, and you can gain momentum through all this together. Now passing it on to Yuri.
Thank you. So the next slide is about some tips on how to be effective at offering like promotion. So yeah, so as you can see, some ideas could be to offer to distribute Veganuary literature to students, ask them to participate in the Try Veganuary or Try Vegan for the month of January, promoting the campaign on campus, papers, or social media, or even podcasts. So everywhere that you can promote the event at your university. You can also ask the chef to promote Veganuary at the institution by offering maybe a tabling event or handing out flyers, putting up posters or through social media, or food samples. So for example, food samples, we did talk to Chef Tucci that, we said, what about like a very frothy cappuccino, all plant-based giveaway? And he said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So I'll pass it on to Uday.
Thanks, Reem. Yeah, and I just want to add, like as we talked about the film screenings, we found the music performances to be very effective in our Toronto. We're going ward to ward and doing the UFT campaign, Waterloo campaign. The music performance can help students become more interested. So, but not only music performance, like since I've been performing my plant-based treaty song, you can maybe do your own if you have any other creative element you want to add, like visual arts, or maybe like karaoke or like acting, theater, whichever thing, whichever like angle you think would be more interactive for students. Basically, just like think about it like if you would post that on social media, would like you want to get more engagement. Same thing you can try on campus to see what works and what would bring more students, like rally the students and get more people like on the cause to help you get the universities to shift towards plant-based. And now passing it to Anita.
Thanks, today. So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining this webinar and watching the presentation. This is the last slide. We'd like to then have some interaction with you and have you ask questions. For the next part of the webinar, we can all take part by contacting our local university. So if you want to spend some time in the last 20 minutes, like looking up your university and trying to find the executive chef, that would be amazing. Please sign up on this sheet Uday will post in the chat if you want to take part in the campaign. We will start by researching our student cafeterias and chefs and collating the research. And I'll pass it on to Yureen.
Thank you, Anita. Some quick tip regarding contacting the chefs is that sometimes you may not be able to find the executive chef's information straight away on the internet. So one route that you could do is to try to speak to the hospitality department. So that's just one tip. Also, another tactic could be that if you do get a hold of the hospitality department, you can also use that as an opportunity to ask them about the most popular vegan dishes at their cafeterias, just to start to begin a conversation, right? Because sometimes right away asking, it's always nice to have that conversation first. And then once you have gathered that information, then that could give you more confidence and it could be more personable for you to then follow up with an email. Like for example, like as we spoke on the phone, thank you for the information, or thank you for connecting me with the executive chef and so forth. And once you have that information, it can help guide you in customizing also the letter to the chef before you send it off.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we want to open it up to questions, and if you want to, or comments, and if you raise your hand, we can open the mic. I wanted to thank Varun for doing the technical part of this webinar, and thank you, Adrian, for joining us. Adrian does our marketing, so if you need marketing materials for the plant-based treaty, she could mail them to you. If they're in North America, if they're somewhere else, we have another distributor who can mail you information. So does anybody have any questions? Please just raise your hand.
Also, we have a question by Tanya.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I was wondering if you have any document or summary showing all successes you've had in European universities so far, because I would like to go to Eastern Europe, and I'm not sure if there's any, like I just joined the plant-based treaty, and I'm curious if there have been any successes in Eastern Europe, because it can be pretty tricky. They're very tied to their tradition and meat, unfortunately.
I can just take a quick shot at that. We work a lot with Green Rev in Poland, and they've been very successful in just mobilizing students. So Tanya, we could put you in touch with Morgan. She's a youth leader at Green Rev in Poland. And I noticed somebody on this call was from Romania.
Yeah, she's my colleague.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I don't know if anybody else has an answer. Like if anybody wants to respond to that, even in the audience, if anybody has any tips, please let us know.
Thanks. All right, would be great to get in touch. I'm also on Slack, so maybe I can find her there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good question. Like maybe Varun, you could check if Morgan is on our plant-based treaty Slack.
Okay.
Because even plant-based milk would be a challenge, I think, in a country like Romania. Also with what the government subsidizes, the big contracts they have, it's very ingrained in everything.
I want to mention that the Canada Food Guide is science-based to a much greater degree than other food guides, like for example, the US one, which is very influenced by the animal agriculture industry. So in our food guide in Canada, a glass of dairy milk was replaced by a glass of water. So that's something you might want to use, Tanya, and your colleague in Romania. That a glass of water is better nutritionally than a glass of dairy milk.
If I could add really quickly, Tanya, so I really think right now it's like a growing movement, right? And it's based on science. So I think that if you back yourself up with the science, and also allowing people to taste the food, like for example having those tabling events, or just handing out like plant-based milk, or actually develop a relationship with the staff at the dining hall and cafeteria. That's one step. I think I would encourage you to that you can be successful. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, the science is definitely there. It's also something I'm very busy with researching myself and keeping myself up to date. I think the biggest challenge, especially for Romanian students, is finances. And the plant-based alternatives currently are still way overpriced in a country like Romania, mostly because they're imported. A lot of it comes from Belgium, like Alpro, and it's the same price in Belgium and in Romania. So yeah.
Well,
It would be nice if they have their own brands at a
yeah, or
lower.
I was saying like maybe they can we can teach them how to make the milk like themselves. Like for example, like I usually make my milk myself, like the Brazil nuts, walnuts, just like combining it and making it at home. It's really, really fast. You just have to like overnight just to soak them in water, and then you can blend them in the morning. Extremely cheap and like fast process, and really eco-friendly as well. If they're open to that, maybe they can do that.
Especially with oats.
Yeah, oats would be really, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you. And then we had a question. Nina asked, "Do you have a presentation we can borrow?"
Absolutely. Nina, do you want to just speak for a bit, like maybe say where you are, and we can definitely share the presentation.
Hi,
Hey.
can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi, yeah, just because sounds like your presentations are already done, and if I could have one that's fantastic, I could share it. And then I have like communities, vegan communities that I work with, that I collaborate with, and I could share that with them. And that would be a great help instead of us trying to guess when you guys sound like you guys are the experts.
Where are you based, Nina? Can you just tell us.
Oh, sorry. I'm in San Diego, California, United States.
Amazing. Okay, great. I think we have somebody else from San Diego today. I don't know if Samantha's from there as well.
Yeah, people are really resistant to changing, and it's weird. It's like a anger thing. They come up with anger first.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Nina, do you know Samantha Grish, who's on the call? She's from San Diego at UCSD.
No, I haven't been a student in I graduated a long time ago.
Okay, great. We can definitely, we'll have your emails, and could you just populate your information in the Excel sheet, and we'll put it in the comments, and we'll send you the presentation.
Yes.
Where's the Excel sheet?
I can send it again.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, for sure.
And then Samantha, did you want to say anything about maybe just a bit about your research project or your interests and what you're doing?
Oh wait, I'll let her talk. Okay, should be able to talk.
Okay, hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for letting me, share a little bit. I'll be brief about it. I'm an environmental systems major at UC San Diego, and so I'm kind of doing the plant-based movement from that angle. And so I'm focusing just on the environmental aspects of it. My project is focusing on a couple of dining establishments at UCSD, a dining hall and a restaurant. And I'm going to be, I'm working on getting access to the data right now so I can make a comparative analysis of the environmental impacts between the animal-based options they have and the plant-based options. And I want to create like posters, infographics, something really easily accessible, easy to understand for a common student or faculty member, so they can see that at the point of purchase and like, be informed as they're making their decisions. And we're going to use this to examine to what extent that would drive like consumer change. Like we want individual consumers to make plant-based choices. So the way we're going to do that is by raising awareness and like basically like raising eco-consciousness and like environmental education, right, as they're about to order their food. And so we're going to be doing an assessment before and after to see what exactly the difference was. And I just wanted to encourage everybody, anybody who's like concerned about the receptivity of all of this. I was very surprised how receptive everybody has been along every step of the way, even people who are not vegan. Because if you come at it with the logic and the data and because everybody is wanting to hold everyone else to account right now, um, we want to divest from fossil fuels. We want everybody to put their money where their mouth is, right? So if we just show up saying, hey, it's a matter of fact that plant-based is better for the environment. And if we want to reach our food emissions reduction goals, this is the fastest, most immediate way to do it. And Gen Z, thanks to that study that the Better Food Foundation did, it's absolutely amazing. I recommend everybody go check it out because it's really encouraging. The new generation that's coming up cares about the environment in ways that maybe previous generations really didn't. And they are more willing to make environmentally conscious choices because they do feel this immense pressure to do something about climate change. And this is a way to do it where we're like, yeah, you can make this choice every single day. And we want to show people like the direct, immediate impact of making those choices. So unfortunately, the angry people tend to be the loudest, but they are not the most prevalent. I really do encourage people to just go for it. It's surprising to me, definitely, how supportive everybody has been.
Thank you so much, Samantha and Nina, for sharing. I was wondering if Kenzie could comment because we had a meeting yesterday with Samantha and your group, and you were asking about carbon labeling and resources, and because we have a playbook of best practices at the Plant-Based Treaty, and we refer to allies having information. So you asked us, give us more information, and so we contacted Kenzie and Laura at the Better Food Foundation, and Kenzie immediately responded with some great resources. So I was just wondering if Kenzie, if you could say a bit more about that, but also about Greener by Default.
Okay, I think I should be unmuted now. Can you guys hear me? Excellent. Yeah, thank you for letting me speak on this. So, we actually have a way of tracking carbon emissions with a formula that our colleague created at the Better Food Foundation. Actually, he's with Farm Forward. His name is Trevor McCarthy. So he has one, but if you don't want to like send us all of your information, another option as well that you could use is the WIR, which is the World WRI, the World Resource Institute. And I can collect what I sent and post their web address in here so you can have access to that. But that would be a really good way too. They have some great resources on that website to be able to oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I have something in my throat.
Please take your time, get a glass of water.
Anyway, so yeah, and then I wanted to mention as well, sorry, I will post that right after I get done speaking here. So so with the Better Food Foundation, I just wanted to mention as well that we also have a lot of resources. So we have just launched our university campaign, and so if you want resources for trying to have those conversations, resources to be able to get allies on your campus and really be able to build a really great campaign. We just launched that last week, so that would be a really good option to be able to get those resources and not have to kind of just start everything from the beginning and be able to use resources that are already available. So I'll post my email address in the chat one more time, but please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you guys and help you guys make some really great changes on your campus.
Amazing, thank you. Also, we had a question from Cindy. She asked, what documentaries would you advise? For example, Eating Our Way to Extinction. Any other ones you think could have a big impact? Yeah, so like we're doing the screening for Eating Our Way to Extinction. We like reduced it from 1 hour and 20 to 30 minutes. If you put your link in the spreadsheet, I can send you our version. Or we're also thinking of posting it to YouTube potentially, like a shortened version. But yeah, that'll be the best, I think, because that incorporates a lot about the environment, which is a great push for the universities.
If I could also add, in addition to maybe for your own knowledge, there's a documentary called Breaking Boundaries, and there's a book. So I would recommend that as well. And there's another documentary called Take Out. It also talks about animal agriculture and climate, and I would recommend that even for yourselves to check out. But definitely Eating Our Way to Extinction, the abridged version, it seems to be very effective. But yeah, I just wanted to add those two: Breaking Boundaries, the documentary, and Take Out.
Yeah, I would say that Eating Our Way to Extinction is the best one because it calls for a complete transition to plant-based, whereas Breaking Boundaries is very educational, but it's not as good on food. It calls for the planetary diet, which is 85% plant-based, so it's complete, it's not really responding to the crisis in the same way that the environmental groups are responding to fossil fuels. They don't say 85%, they say transition from fossil fuels to soft energy, conservation and efficiency. So I strongly recommend that you use the best film. So what we're doing at the Plant-Based Treaty is we're always developing best practices. Just for your own interest, I would watch Breaking Boundaries, the movie, but I wouldn't necessarily share that one. But the book is amazing. The book was updated and it's a little stronger, but still in the book, there's a chapter on food and it just calls for the planetary diet, which is whatever, 85%. It's called the Eat Lancet diet, which is mostly plant-based, but not entirely. So what we're doing at the Plant-Based Treaty is we're updating it with the work of Dr. Shireen Kassan. She's the founder of Plant-Based Health Professionals in the UK, and she has updated a plate which is 100% plant-based, and so that's something that we're promoting. So the time is almost up. So I was just wondering, does anybody have any final comments? We really appreciate you all attending. And the key thing is that you take action, and it's very easy to do. Like, we created a template letter that all you have to do is look up the executive chef, send the letter off, see if your university, whether you're currently attending or you're a graduate of, whether they'd be interested in participating in Veganuary and changing their menu for January. When a lot of people are making New Year's resolutions. We also have to hold institutions accountable. We're facing an incredible crisis. multiple crises at the same time, the climate crisis, freshwater crisis, deforestation and species extinction. So, 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries are breached at present. And so we're this is a crucial decade, and we need to implement the most effective, the strongest practices now. So the number one practice is for the universities to go completely plant-based. And the next best option is greener by default, because you can get 80% plant-based or 70. So like right away, you don't have to have targets like that for 10 years away. We can do that right now just by implementing those strategies. You can have meat-free Mondays, meat-free Fridays, plant-powered Fridays. Anyways, so there's a number of best practices. So we can provide you with a playbook of best practices. And so we just encourage you all to take action in your networks. So any final comments or any other questions? We will have more of these webinars quite regularly. We'll update you. The next time we do this webinar, we'll add another angle. The last webinar we had this week, Kenzie from Better Food Foundation suggested that you don't only have to ask cafeterias to do greener by default, or sorry, veg by default. You can ask student groups, different ones, like the environmental groups, different departments to do it. And on this call today, we have Valerie from OISE, Ontario Institute Studies in Education, and that's a huge institute at University of Toronto, and they're committed to veg by default. So you could ask other student groups to adopt. So I think that's a great strategy. And I don't know if Kenzie, if you wanted to say a few words about that, about Northwestern University having a lot of success there.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so that is an excellent way to, be able to make changes and really start a movement on campus, is when you, are not only having conversations with the dining hall, with the cafes, but also, reaching out to those individual student groups and individual departments. So yeah, the, Department of inclusivity and diversity, that should be a really easy win to be able to get all of their events to be default veg, because obviously they want to be as inclusive as possible. And then for, the environmental department, sustainability departments, those could be really easy wins as well. And then once you see, the dining halls and the cafes are seeing that, there's so much of this going on campus, that they really are more likely to want to be able to participate and get on board with the changes that are being made and the directions that are being moved in with these default policies.
Thank you, Kenzie. Sheena said that she's going to Australia, so she's going to try to implement these initiatives in primary and secondary schools next year. Nina asks, how can we ask restaurants to change menus? We do have so if we could put that in the notes on your Excel sheet, we can follow up and give you the playbook for best practices at restaurants. And all of this will be on our website in a couple of weeks. So for COP, we're actually launching best practices in a number of different institutions. So we'll have those resources. And again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just referring to other groups and the work that they're doing. For example, the World Resource Institute, which Kenzie mentioned, they're doing great work on menu change at restaurants, and with placement and all sorts of things like that, and wording. So yeah, we can give you access to all those guides. Yeah, any final comments, questions?
I'm just gonna ask. Oh, I think it's good. Yeah, and Nina, I just sent the spreadsheet again. So if you wanna like fill out just one line of your name and email, and at the end where it says notes, you can ask about the best practices or any other we can help you with anything else. And anyone else wants to fill it out, feel free to as well.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks everyone for joining us. Lena's from Austria. Got Shanani from like Mexico. We have yeah. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining us from all over the world. We really appreciate it. And we wish you luck, and feel free to contact us anytime, and contact Kenzie. You know, just thank you so much.
Thank you for everything you do.
Likewise, thank you, Tanya.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.